The latest schools report card is out. It's the 2022 Illinois report card. You can find it at IllinoisReportCard.com. Again, the website, IllinoisReportCard.com. Now, we've had a bit of time to digest some of this, and of course, it was put out to members of the media a while back, and it was embargoed until yesterday at 9 o'clock. And the governor and the school superintendent, Carmen Ayala, they held a news conference up in Chicago yesterday to talk a bit about the numbers. But we'll review some of the numbers here locally from the Illinois Report Card. And again, you can find that at IllinoisReportCard.com. But I do want to talk a little bit about some of the report card's findings. The school superintendent, Carmen Ayala, she ultimately said that this is a lot of good numbers. She says that every demographic group experienced growth in both English and math. Here's what she had to say previously about those numbers.
Student growth slowed dramatically during the pandemic, but growth last school year rebounded and even slightly outperformed pre-pandemic levels.
And she went on to say that the state's schools used federal resources to help reverse some of the learning loss that happened over whenever you had the in-school education suspended by the governor's orders.
Like high-impact tutoring, summer school, parent engagement, and social emotional programs.
So a lot of federal resources going in to make up for when the governor closed schools. And you have Ted Dabrowski looking at these numbers and seeing a different picture altogether. Ted Dabrowski, again, he's the president of WirePoints, and he sounded off on what he's seeing in the data. Here he is.
You can see that in school district after school district where the kids can't read, and you see it every year that they're tested. And then they have very high graduation rates.
He also talked about, where the blame is for school children not being properly prepared for the future, and not having good schools is leading to just that.
What's driving it is that there's no focus. We just socially promote to these students. We move them from one grade to the next, whether they can read or not.
So that's some of the initial reaction to the numbers, and then you had school officials yesterday with Governor J.B. Pritzker talking about how good these numbers were, and the governor sounding off on these numbers himself, letting the state know that hey, there's growth, there's growth in these school numbers, and the trends are looking good, he says.
This is yet another indication that Illinois is on the right path to learning renewal post-pandemic.
And the governor also went on to talk about the high graduation rates, how they're the highest they've been in 2 years. Again, Governor Pritzker.
Pessimists take note. Despite all the challenges, Illinois is defying expectations with so many positive developments.
But are all those developments really that positive? And what's wrong with the schools that maybe Pritzker's political opponent, Darren Bailey, has to say? I talked with him yesterday, and he shared some of his thoughts about the state of schools.
I think administrative bloat is one of the biggest problems. We need to get money to the classroom. The reality is that the majority of high schoolers across Illinois cannot read or do math at grade level.
Bailey went on to say that there's some substantial problems that are happening, and he says that he has the solutions to fix it.
Our schools are a mess. I mean, when you have Wall Street Journal come out and give our state an F, and based on our own information, something's wrong.
So what do the schools look like? And we'll go through some of the data, again, from Illinois Schools Report Card. You can find it at IllinoisReportCard.com. And looking at, a snapshot of the state, we've got 852 school districts. 852 school districts. We're only bested by Texas and California in that number, and they have like double the state's population. But 852 school districts, those are taxing bodies. Each one of those can impact your property taxes. 3,800 schools. We have a 87% graduation rate, which is wild. Student mobility, about 8%. But you look at various other snapshot pictures, and it's not a whole bunch of information there. Academic progress statewide. You're looking at for a variety of different metrics. Science assessment, 51% proficient. Only half of the state students are proficient in science. You've got 8th grade algebra, only 30% proficiency. You've got some of the other indicators that are part of that snapshot statewide. But what about Springfield District 186? And this is what's great about the school's report card is you can actually see the snapshot, and you can highlight and go into various school districts and check out what's going on. And of course, you can look into the Springfield area and Central Illinois. But when it comes to academic progress for Springfield schools, let's look at the district snapshot. 31 schools, 69% graduation rate, and it costs about $19,000 per student in Springfield schools. Absenteeism is high. You're looking at 58% of chronic absenteeism, and that's an alarming trend that's being found statewide as well. Academic progress for District 186. Let's take a look at some of these numbers. 37% are proficient in science. Yikes. 21% of 8th graders passing algebra. And then, of course, the graduation rate at 69%. Some of the other area schools, Ball Chatham schools, let's compare that here. They've got 6 schools, 93% graduation rate with $10,000 per student. So, again, comparing Springfield School District, which you've got around $19,000, while Ball Chatham is costing $10,000 per student, with a graduation rate of 93% compared to Springfield's graduation rate of 69%, and also the truancy rates for Chatham, 19%. Absenteeism. And then you can look at Williamsville. They've got their snapshot as well, $9,000, $9,800 per student. Taylorville schools, they've got their 84% graduation rate, about $12,000 per student. And you can go through and see all of these different school districts and how they're performing. Riverton schools, 8th School, all 852 school districts, if you felt. And that's all available at IllinoisReportCard.com. I encourage you to go check that out and look at some of those metrics. While we have high graduation rates in some areas, it seems that the kids aren't as proficient as maybe they should be. So is this something that's important for you to think about whenever you're heading to the polls? Of course, you'll want to keep that in mind. It is Springfield's Morning News. Coming back, we'll talk about vaccine mandates for school kids. The question was finally asked to the governor yesterday. We'll share that with you next here with WMA. So last week, the CDC announced that they're recommending the COVID-19 vaccine for school kids. And when that happens, it's not a mandate for kids across the country, but certain states do take that schedule of recommended inoculations for children under 18, and they lay that over their school mandates. So kids have to follow the CDC vaccination schedule in order for kids to go into school. Some states allow for religious and medical exemptions. Other states only allow for medical exemptions. Illinois is one of these states that does typically go to the CDC's schedule and requires those inoculations. From my understanding, it needs to be promulgated by rules with the Illinois Department of Public Health. But Governor J.B. Pritzker also is very much instrumental in that decision. He hadn't been asked about it until yesterday. We already heard from the Republican candidates for governor opposing vaccine mandates, and we also heard from the Libertarian candidate opposing vaccine mandates. But what about the incumbent governor, J.B. Pritzker? He shared his thoughts yesterday after being asked about it. And this was a question that took a week for a reporter in the Chicagoland area to ask. For whatever reason. So here's his response. And before we get to this, though, I do want to share, they've seen the mountain lion. The mountain lion, apparently there are some government official trucks over on the west side. That mountain lion is being seen over on the west side. So be careful out there. Be sure to practice your scare off the mountain lion. And, wave your arms and scream, ah! And maybe that'll help. But anyways, okay. Governor J.B. Pritzker, are you going to mandate vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines for school kids? Here's the governor's response yesterday at a news conference about the school's report card.
Yeah, we're not currently requiring that. That's something that goes through the General Assembly. All of the vaccination requirements are heard by the General Assembly, decided upon by the General Assembly. And so it's obviously something we're listening to doctors about and making sure we're making the right decisions, but at this point, not required. I'm sorry, what? I think we should follow the scientists and doctors. That's what I've been doing all along. Make sure that we're doing the right thing here. The CDC has made a recommendation. That's true. But this is a process that we need to consider. Obviously, all across the state, we have representatives who want to be heard on this subject. I think it's appropriate.
So again, that's Governor J.B. Pritzker responding. What about Darren Bailey? What did he have to say about this? I talked to him yesterday, and he's not a fan of vaccine mandates.
That's a personal choice. The government has absolutely no business mandating, forcing, any kind of health care such as that. I believe that school choice and the voucher system would be the answer to that, allowing parents to decide where their children go to school. I think that would be the saving grace to public education and to stop a lot of this nonsense that we're
From the Fly SPI Studios, take the easy way out.